Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our many visitors here tonight. I appreciate you coming. First order of business, the Rutherford County Board of Education, as always, the Pledge of Allegiance, led tonight by Board Member Lisa Moore. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ms. Moore. And we have a school system the size of ours. Every once in a while, we have bad things happen. And we lost a second grader this week. And I would appreciate the audience if you would join the board in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Next order of business is approval of agenda. I remind the audience and those that might be listening at home that the board had a work session last night, and we have discussed many things on this agenda and in detail. Others, of course, we have not. But this one we have, and I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Ms. Moore, thank you. A second from someone. Second. Mr. Holliday, thank you. Any comments or questions? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Also, the consent agenda, I need a motion to approve that, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Young. A second.
Second.
Mr. Hodge, thank you very much. If there are no comments, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving on through our agenda, brings us to number 6, which is visitors. And we have one visitor tonight, I believe that's Lisa Parsley, is that correct? Ms. Parsley, good evening. You're welcome to come up to the podium if you would. Remind you that you have three minutes to discuss anything that you would like to discuss, and welcome.
Thank you.
Most welcome.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Parsley, and I'm the president of the Siegel High School Band Boosters. I'm here to formally request permission to apply to the state of Tennessee for approval to hold our 3rd annual raffle. Our required process for approval is as follows. We first gain approval from our own booster executive board to hold a raffle. Next, we ask for permission from you, the board, to apply to the state of Tennessee to hold to gain approval from them. And then we apply to the state of Tennessee. The application to the state is due on January 31st. Our last raffle was held in December at our holiday concert. Mr. Estes was present at our concert, and we really appreciated him coming. We wanted to have our final results of the raffle before seeking approval from our own board to hold another raffle. Due to the timing of our executive board meeting and the school closings, we were not able to submit our fundraiser request to Rutherford County until this past Monday. Mr. Sandvig informed us that we were unable to get on the agenda in time and that we would need to come in person to formally request permission. As you know, several organizations in Murfreesboro and throughout the state of Tennessee have held and continue to hold raffles. These organizations include the Boys and Girls Club of Rutherford County, the Murfreesboro City School Foundation, and a local church. Booster clubs such as Franklin Band, Page High Athletic Boosters, Tullahoma Baseball Boosters, and Ooltewah Band hold raffles as well. Our raffles have been successful for us, and we thank you for approving this fundraiser in the past. We appreciate your continued support of our kids and their band. Please accept our formal request for permission to apply to the state of Tennessee.
Ms. Parsley, thank you. If you just remain right there, I think the director has a comment to make about what we need to do here since we are at the last minute.
Right. Mr. Sandvig, I do not have the right to waive your policy, and kind of by the conditions she said is why we're past this. Actually, I believe, does it go to the treasurer?
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State, and he writes a special bill, individual bill, for everyone that they approve, and then that goes to the legislature. So that's why with next week, the ending of the time to introduce the bill, that you have that deadline. I would like to add, if you choose to approve this, and we also approved Stewart's Creek High School Band, they contacted us.
We also turned down.
And it was the timing again to do that. So will they follow through? I don't know, but I would rather include both of those if we do that at this time.
Mr. Sandy.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask, we really need to get these in before Christmas break so that we are certain to get them on the agenda, and we're not doing the last-minute catch-up. The only reason this triggered when Mr. Creasy sent me the fundraiser form, which is also needed. I thought, we had heard nothing about this. And I had declined after talking to Mr. Odom, Stewart's Creek Highs, because again, it was past the agenda. We gave an extension. They may not be at a point where they can even do it, but they had missed the deadline. And I like Mr. Odom, I would like them included if y'all are inclined to approve.
Understood. And I think, well, the long Christmas break, a week of snow, Martin Luther King holiday, I think we can understand here that this may have slipped up on these people. But at any rate, regardless of that, it's what you think that matters. And I need a motion from someone to approve or deny this request for Stewart's Creek and Siegel High School for their lottery. That's what I need.
Move to approve.
That was Mr. Estes. A second from Ms. Moore. Is there a discussion from anyone? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed to this? And no one is. And Ms. Parsley?
Thank you.
And thank you for addressing us tonight. Quite often, we get the opportunity to see amazing student groups. And tonight, I think we've actually got two. They happen to come from the same place. May have more than that. I haven't looked ahead. I don't want to get in trouble here. We actually got three. But got two from Eagleville. And Mr. Tyler, are you coming forward or is someone else? Okay, Eagleville Land Judging Team.
I'll read this for you. This
Please.
is what's in our agenda. On October the 30th, 2017, the Eagleville Land Judging Team won the Tennessee State Land Judging Contest held in Milan, Tennessee. The Eagleville team members are Caitlin Benton, Kaylee Pineda, Kara Snell, and Karsten Daniel. They were awarded the state championship at the 57th State Land Judging Awards banquet, with Caitlin Benton earning the high individual scores in Tennessee. The team will now represent Tennessee in the National Land Judging Contest in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, April 30th through May 3rd, 2018. And the second group, also from Eagleville, is the FFA chapter. The Eagleville FFA chapter was recently awarded the National Chapter Gold Star Award at the National FFA Convention held in Indianapolis, Indiana. Eagleville is one of the only 5 Tennessee schools that earned this prestigious award. This is the highest award a school can earn on the national FFA level. Mr. Tollett, tell us about
Your trophy case has got to be about full out there. I think you've done this before.
Do I just have 3 minutes up here?
You got whatever you want, Mr. Tyler.
I would just like to take the opportunity. Mr. Odom said most of the accolades that they won tonight, but I would just like to say, take this opportunity. Never been a better time to praise teachers, the ag teachers, Emily Marshall, and longtime FFA advisor Bruce Haley. They're special educators, and they're the main reason why these kids perform the way they do. A lot of respect for Mr. Haley's program. He's been there at least 30 years, affecting young lives, and they responded. They're going to be on the national level, and that's a great representation for our school.
Ms. Marshall and Mr. Haley. Come up, tell us about them. And you might want to introduce them to us, please. Girls, I remember the picture we had on our website with one of you, and I don't know which one it was, had the mud on your hands and all. Was it? Okay. It stayed on our website for quite a while.
Sure you don't want this? I'm good. We sure appreciate this opportunity. We truly believe that we have a great group of students here, a great school that they come from. They've worked hard. Soil judging at Eagleville is just what you do. It's when you're in the FFA program, an agriculture education program, you learn to judge the soil, and we've always been that way 35 plus years now. Over the years, we've had many teams to make it to the state and national. 2 years. This will be two times in the last 3 years we've made it to the national in Oklahoma City, and that's that's saying a lot for a group of kids that work hard, work diligently, work many hours after school, before school, on weekends, and it takes a lot of practice, and we love them and we appreciate them. And on the other group, as far as being a Gold Chapter Award, that's an accumulation of all of the things we do in a year. We keep up, the national and state FFA keeps up with all the career development events that we attend, all of the public service, all the different things that the FFA does throughout the year. And at the end of the year, these points are tallied up, and we were one of 5 schools in the state of Tennessee out of about 250 schools that have FFA programs that earn that most prestigious degree, and we're just proud of them, and we thank you all for what you do for us. Without what you do, we couldn't do what we do, because you support education and help so many students in Rutherford County. We want to applaud you for that. We appreciate you having us here.
Let's introduce them.
Okay.
This is.
I'll let them come forward and just introduce themselves. They like to do that.
I'm a senior at Eagleville High School.
I'm Marin Williams. I'm also a senior at Eagleville.
I'm Devin Yates. I'm a sophomore.
I'm Kelsey Bruce. I'm a senior.
I'm Caitlin Benton. I'm a junior.
I'm Callie Pineda, and I'm a senior.
I'm Mackenzie Bracewell. I'm a senior.
I'm Carson Daniel, and I'm a junior.
I'm Linton Haley. I'm a senior.
I'm Cody Lane, and I'm a senior.
I'm Dakota Rakes, and I'm a junior.
Now the soul. Did the soil judging team raise your hand over there? Okay. Was this not, Ms. Haley, was this not the only all-girls team in the contest? So it's the year of the woman, even in soil judging, evidently. Well, our hearty congratulations to all of you. Mr. Tollett, congratulations to you and your staff and your kids. Terrific.
It's just been a very short time ago, Chelsea Doss was the national officer also, so I'm sure you're probably working on that again, too. We'll look forward to that sometime.
Y'all are welcome to stay as long as you like. We have some very boring things, but we have some great things coming up, too. And I saw somebody walk in with a trophy, and I don't know where he went with it, but...
Mr. Creasy, I think, is going to introduce
okay.
for us.
Mr. Chairman, before we move
yes.
on, I just wanted to say, over the last 18 months, I've learned more about geology than I ever thought I would, because my son came home about 18 months ago and said, I think I want to be a geologist, which is all about soil analysis. And I just want to say that there is a bright future out there in more than just agriculture for soil analysis, and I hope that perhaps some of you will pursue that. I never knew all of the things that were involved, but it's been very enlightening to me just what the earth can, just how complicated it can be. So,
any other comments from board members? That's good to know.
Mr. Chairman.
I don't think that, no. I don't believe you're on their level. I'm sorry. Mr. Creasy, let's try it again. 6A state championship for the Siegel High cross-country boys team.
Thank you, Mr. Odom and board members. It's my honor to recognize our AAA cross-country boys team for their state championship. Coach Young does a fantastic job with these athletes, and not only did the boys win, but our girls, they finished 4th in the state championship, so they had a fantastic year as well. So we're very proud of them and what they accomplished. So I'm going to turn it over to Coach Young, and he's the one that does all the work with these young men and women, and I'll let him tell you about these wonderful students.
Walk briskly, no running, please.
You guys can you put it right there, wherever you.
Good gracious, look at that.
Andrew, look right there. Mr. Odom and school board members, thank you for the opportunity to recognize the 2017 State Cross Country Boys Division I Large School Champions. The team is here with heavy hearts as one of our team members, freshman Josh Harris, passed away in November. Although he is not here with us today, he is on our minds and we will always value the contributions he made to the team. Our motto this year was I'm in. I'm proud to say that we were totally I'm in. This season, whether we study our times and personal records or we consider our team members cope with adversity this season, this team truly rose to the occasion, controlling what they could control, staying positive and focused, and not letting distractions getting in their way. As the head coach of Siegel Cross Country for 10 years, I've had the privilege of learning from numerous national merit semifinalists, governor's school attendees, valedictorians, and team members who are excellent role models and valued contributors to our society. These student athletes exemplify hard work and dedication that pays off both in the classroom and on the race course. Our 36 team members, both boys and girls, cumulative GPA is currently a 3.6. We've had 15 team members sign athletic scholarships to run cross-country track in college since 2012. Alabama, University of Mississippi, Austin Peay, and Belmont, to name a few. Many others have received scholarship offers but have chosen to focus on their academics at universities such as Notre Dame, California, Stanford, Alabama, Mississippi State, UTK, MTSU, to name a few. Our program's success would not be possible without the support of Mr. Odom, you, the school board members, Mr. Creasy, and the administrators, faculty, and staff at Siegel, our coaching staff, the parents, and most of all, our team members. Winning the state championship was the great accomplishment for our team members. But at the end of the day, if we have all the trophies for beating our rivals and have a successful team, and in the end, we aren't prepared for life, have we done anything of significance? I don't think so. If we never make states, never win region, and have team members that go out into life respectful, helpful, proud, contributing to a better society, succeeding in life, then we make communities better. That makes the trophy case, and I know I'll remember it as they will too. Thank you very much. I allow them to introduce themselves to you.
I'm Kanan Anderson, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Andrew Hooper, and I'm a junior.
I'm Caleb Marks, I'm a freshman.
I'm Caleb Nelson, I'm a junior.
I'm Andrew Waters, I'm a senior.
I'm Kyle Brown, and I'm a senior.
I'm Tucker Moss, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Luke Blaine, a freshman.
I'm Emilio Vernon, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Dawson Reed, I'm a senior.
I'm Andy O'Reilly, and I'm a senior.
I'm Seth Robinson, and I'm a sophomore. I'm Jacob Boykin, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Michael Kirakutis, I'm a freshman.
I'm Megan Gaspardo, and I'm one of the assistant coaches.
We hope to be back next year. We have 5 of our top 7 returning, and we would like to make this an annual ritual. Thank you very much.
Board number 8, I'm sorry, on your agenda, Mr. Director.
Okay, this is the Siegel High School Health Science Academy. Ms. Pilgrim, CTE program, or Mr. Creasy, would one of you like to kind of introduce it? You've done a lot of work for this to take place. It's receiving some good recognition. I'd like to see the board to see it this evening.
Come on, Ms. Pilgrim, you love this.
I do love this. No, I am very excited to be able to present tonight the Health Science Pathway at Siegel High School. It is one of its kind, and we have a 4-teacher program there, and it is just exploding. And the major reasons are sitting behind me. We have very Well, I just say they're the best of the best. And so we have Ms. Connolly, Mr. Boker, and Ms. Batag. And they are our teachers, and they have a presentation, so I will get out of the way and let them go ahead and present to you.
I think I heard Mr. Boker at the Chamber of Commerce not too long ago, too. Very impressed at that time, so they're in for a treat. Great.
Well, first I want to say thank you so much to Mr. Odom and the board for having us tonight. And what we want to do is just talk a little bit about our program at Siegel High School. So just some quick stats for you guys. One of the biggest things I want to point out is that for CTE students at Siegel High School, we have a 100% graduation rate. So that goes to say that students that are enrolled in CTE classes are excited about coming to school. We are one of the 4 high schools in the county that do have that number. Number 355, that is the number of students that we have enrolled in the health science program as a whole at Siegel. So if you do the math, that's nearly 19% of the student body at Siegel are enrolled in some type of health science course, which is a rather large number. We have 4 pathway teachers, which is the largest in the county as well. So now we're going to talk to you about a few of the courses that are offered at Siegel.
We have 3 programs of study right now at Siegel High School. We have therapeutic services, we have nursing services, and then we have exercise physiology, which is transitioning to the sports and human performance next year. With that, we offer a variety of courses. 9th grade, all of our students take the health science education course. After that, they then pick between which program of study they're going to. So that means that they will pick rehab careers or they pick medical therapeutics. And then their 11th grade year, they usually do anatomy honors. And then they can pick on their capstone course, which will be clinical internship or nursing education. Competencies and skills that we do. On 9th grade level, they're learning basic vital skills, basic anatomy, law and ethics, professionalism. They learn about the different careers that are out there, and they have the possibility to become CPR certified. In 10th grade, they start learning those hands-on skills and start actually using them for documentation. They learn rehab techniques that you might see in like a physical therapy clinic or sports medicine. They do independent medical research, basic hands-on skills, patient interaction. It moves them into their in-depth knowledge of fine and gross motor skills with anatomy and physiology and their functions. And then they can actually go and use those in that in-person patient interaction, which includes increasing their professional portfolio and job-seeking skills. So how do we push students further at Siegel High School? In Rehab Careers, which is a 2nd level course, we like to use lots of things and varieties of those hands-on skills, including utilizing our BEP Nissan partnership. So we like to do lots of those mini grants. We've actually been awarded 2 years now, both in the spring.
And then to speak a little bit on the clinical internship capstone, we offer that every spring, so the students have the opportunity to go out and get those hands-on skills and build their resume. We have several different places in the community that are on board with us, including the VA Hospital, Murfreesboro Medical Clinic. We also have Stonecrest, MTSU Sports Medicine, Webb Aesthetic and Plastic Surgery, Adams Place, and Interfaith Dental Clinic. So we've really had a great amount of support and outpouring from the community as well.
Nursing education is our other capstone, and so we actually have the ability to take seniors in high school, and they become, they have the ability to sit for the CNA certification test with the state of Tennessee. We go to Adams Place, and the students provide hands-on care to the residents in that facility. And then at the end, the state will show up at the school and give them their test. There are currently 225 open positions for CNAs in Rutherford County alone. Okay. So our Health Science Academy is the big reason that Mr. Creasy really brought to us. Mr. Creasy wanted to figure out a way that we could stand out at Siegel High School. So we're the only Health Science Academy right now in Rutherford County. The students are dually enrolled between Siegel High School and Montville College.
So I actually had the opportunity to teach the dual enrollment course with anatomy and physiology, and that is in a large part thanks to Tyra and to Mr. Creasy. They really stepped up to the plate here and were able to order us the top-of-the-line equipment. So what we do is we select the top juniors, and they will enter into the Health Science Academy. So for example, we only had 10 that were selected for the 2017-2018 year. We're very selective with that. We also had a few seniors that wanted to jump on board as well to take that anatomy class. By the time they graduate high school, if they go through the entire Health Science Academy, starting their junior year, they will have 12 college credit hours to their name, which essentially is a full-time load their first semester of freshman year. So their junior year, the two courses that they will be responsible for taking are anatomy and physiology, also a stats course. And then their senior year, they will take the Composition 1 and Composition 2. At the completion of that and graduation, they have semester 1 of college under their belts.
On top of what we expect our students to do, we do expect them to participate in our CTSO, which is HOSA, Health Occupation Students of America. This offers rigorous competition on the regional, states, and national levels. These events require additional study and hands-on skills. We took 22 students to compete on the state level last year in Chattanooga. We received scholarships on the state and national level. Last year, we are the largest student club in Siegel High School. The nice thing about us is you have to be part of our pathway in order to be part of HOSA. So it's a little different spin on it. You can't just sign up just because you want to do it. We have over 165 members, and in order to be and we are the only school that have an advisor sit on the state level conference management team.
So to kind of wrap things up, I want to put 4 main bullet points up there about what the community and us in Rutherford County, what you can expect from Siegel High School students whenever they graduate from our program. It's interesting to think that in 10 to 15 years, these students are going to be the ones that are taking care of us and your children as well. So they're going to be competent in their skills, we're sure of that. They're also professionally prepared with a portfolio, resume, and interviewing skills. Our course content is extremely rigorous. It's not for everybody, it is very selective, and our students are also post-secondary ready to enter the college field. We've had students that have attended Belmont, Vanderbilt, and Emory as well, just to name a few. So we hope this presentation has been a little bit enlightening for you guys, and thank you so much for all your support.
Outstanding, and I know I did hear the presentation with the chamber, and chambers are into business and connecting things like that, and they were very much impressed with your program and what's been offered at Siegel. And you can see by the people where you do your internships now, it's touching some of the main health centers that we now have in Rutherford County. So I can see why students want to be a part of that. Great program, hats off to you and the boys and girls that are studying that program.
Thank you. Well presented. Good job. Number 9, report on Siegel High School baseball field lights. I understand Mr. Creasy has told me that Coach Revis is going to do the talking. Is that still correct? Coach Revis? For those of you who don't know, come on up. Don't know Coach Revis, if I'm not mistaken, he's a 2-time state baseball champion, one at Laverne and one at Siegel. Am I right on that?
That is correct. And
has done an excellent job, a long-time coach. And I'm glad you're with us. Thank you, and take it away.
Okay. I don't know if y'all have questions or whatever, but obviously it's been a couple years that I've been working on this. We've known since the school was open, the lights were not good. From day one, whether it be shadows or just dimness. I remember one of our first few practices, we're shooting guys fly balls. They're dropping everywhere. And, of course, I played in college. I thought I could go out there and show them how it was done. But I ran out there with a glove, shot me a ball, and I completely lost it as soon as it went above the lights. And I think that was the first year we had the field. And then it's progressively gotten worse. I didn't know much about it at the time, or I'd have probably looked more into it then. But over the last couple of years, I've learned a lot about the lighting systems and what's safe. And I know what the TSSAA has for their minimum standards and things like that. So I did finally a couple years ago get it checked, and it was way below standard levels. And so my main concern is just the safety of my players, and it's not only my players because we host games with kids from all the county schools, basically Riverdale, Oakland, all the teams in our district play on our field. So my concern is safety, and I've pulled off you know, we have, obviously through the years, we've had many good players and things, but, you know, currently we have guys that throw upper 80s to 90 miles an hour. I've even got a tweet from one of my players this summer who was playing, and he, with a wood bat, hit a ball with a exit velocity of 99 miles an hour, which you translate that to a metal bat, that's going to be probably 104, 105. You know, you got a pitcher that's about 57, 58 feet away from the home plate, and your infielders that are 90 to 100 feet away. A little baseball going 100 miles an hour, and we're at, you know, about a third of what the lighting level should be. I have concern for their safety and things like that. You know, also the fact we host state tournament games, the most important games of people's season. And I've dealt with the complaints, and my guys can't see the ball, and then I've got 3 or 4 emails, if y'all care to see, from guys across the state. We've got one from Farragut, Clarksville High, and Houston High, all teams that have played at our field and in state tournament, that just have their concerns about playing state tournament games on a field that is poorly lit as ours is. And also have one I'm sure some of you may know, Chris Treadway, who was principal at Rock Springs. He's now in Franklin, but he was the baseball coach at Blackman when the school opened, or when we got our field. And, you know, of course, back then we talked about it too, even from day one, that you just see balls drop, kids lose them constantly. So, I mean, I can take any questions or what. I don't.
Before we do that, and as you are well aware, we have, this board has discussed this on numerous occasions.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not saying anything. I said I think we're pretty well versed in what you're saying there, although that's much more up close and personal. But, and I don't know when you began emailing me or whatever, but it's been roughly a year. Is that fair?
It's been a little
maybe a little more
than that, but yeah.
But I want to go to Mr. Clardy just to remind anybody that might be listening hasn't heard before, and we probably need a refresher too. He tested it, and I think you've got both sets of figures as far as the lighting and the foot candles. Is that correct? Or?
Well, I didn't bring them with me, but they are well below both inside and in the infield and the outfield, below the standards that TSSAA have set forth. So we are aware by those tests, and we verified them through our electrical department over here with a testing device, and we were very close to the test that they did with Musco. So we're confirmed that the lighting levels are low.
And our secondary problem too is what's called uplighting.
Sorry?
The uplighting, because of the heavy shields, which ours are heavy duty, just completely block. And this is one of the reasons we can't see when the ball gets up high. You know, that they're there to block light, because I don't remember who all was around when we built the field, but we were a year delayed because of the neighborhood next to us and the lights and all that. So I don't know if we got the heaviest duty shields, and I know technology now has created where they have shields that protect the light, but they can still, with mirrors, get uplighting and things like that. But the low lumens or foot candles is a concern, but as well we have no uplighting as balls go up.
Do we have questions from the board for Coach Revis? Or Mr. Clardy, either one.
Not necessarily a question, but I have comments. So in our work session, I was very much questioning this circumstance, and it was largely based on not understanding why is this field so different from so many others. And I even raised a question that the board has a responsibility for equity to give a relatively equal playing field. And one of the things that the board has discussed along the way is, do we know what these light levels are at other fields and things of that nature? It's not scientific, but best thing I knew to do was to go count light bulbs. And so I can share with the board, based on my understanding of light bulbs, Laverne has 58 on their baseball field, Smyrna has 80, Oakland has 58, Stewart's Creek has 64, Riverdale has 72, Siegel has 58, and Eagleville has 58. So it seemed like 58 was a minimum standard. The difference is those shields. And Siegel appears to me to be the only field that has these shields around the light fixtures. That was critical for my understanding, because those shields start to defeat the maximum dispersion of light, which is what these lights are designed to do. They're conical in shape, maximum dispersion of light, to light not only the field, but also, in baseball, that upper level area. And so what are we proposing to put in place? We're proposing to put in place from let's see, it's Wasco? No, Masco. Musco, there it is, Musco. From Musco, the TLC for LED Total Light Control System. And the shields that are on these lights are completely different. The shields that are on the current lights are painted black on the underside for the specific reason to counteract spill and glare of the lighting system. Whereas the lighting system for these LED lights, the shields over those, are mirrored in order to specifically direct the light. In addition to that, this lighting system has lower on the pole lights that are directed upward. And that is going to, now this is my description of this, essentially create like a dome of illumination that is going to go up higher but not spill over into the neighborhoods. And in effect, when you get a 75 or 80 foot tall fly ball, the ball will actually be lit from the underside with lights that point up. And that is superior. Because of all of these things, I am convinced you've got 58 bulbs, but you're the only one that is cutting out a percentage of that light with these shields that are painted black specifically to absorb light and depreciate how much light is actually going on the field. I think you have the poorest lit field in the county, and I think that the selection that has been made by the engineering department is exactly what we need to put this in the right way. That's what I've observed. I have been so very vocal up until this point. I felt obligated to share the things that I learned over the last 24 hours.
Have other questions or comments from any board member? Yes, Ms. Moore.
I don't have necessarily, I don't think, any specific questions for Coach Rivas, but if I'm understanding correctly, we are looking at taking a vote on this tonight. Is that correct?
That is correct. If we get a motion.
When we discussed this before and it came up at a prior board meeting, the fund or wherever we were proposing to pull the money out of was something that required county commission approval. So I guess one of my questions this evening for Mr. Sandvig or Mr. Clardy or perhaps Mr. Jordan, you can answer it. What specific fund or area in our budget, if this is voted through, are we planning on pulling this $200,000 from?
We only have two choices: the existing maintenance budget or the GPS fund balance. The commission was not open to setting this project up in the building program, because we don't have projects like that there. As of the end of December, and I mentioned this concern last night, at the end of December we had spent 51% of our maintenance repair type budget.
And that's through the end of the school year? that budget is allotted for.
Right.
Okay.
And last year at this point, we had spent 46%. So we've spent about 5 percentage points, but 10% more of the budget to this point in the year. My concern is, and Mr. Clardy and his staff get to allocate the money for the projects to get things done. And that is my point of concern, that we're already over where we were last year. The commission would have to approve use of our fund balance. And we could carry forward an amendment to do that.
So the only way that we have to approve this just as a board without commission approval would be to pull it out of that maintenance budget.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you share with us, I mean, you've talked about how much of a percentage of it we've used. Can you equate that to dollars for me as to how many dollars are actually left in that budget?
We are $205,000 higher than we were year to date, this year versus last year, or essentially the same.
That answered
budget.
my question. How much is actually in the budget now?
$4.9 million for these categories. And we spent about $200,000 more already this year than we did at this point last year.
Going back in time, Mr. Sandvik, if we may, while we're on this, to conversations a year or two ago when, and that have been ongoing about the need for the repair works at the Smyrna and Laverne fields, the concession stands, the restrooms, and all the safety concerns that were presented to the commission, and even then that was turned down. Was there, refresh my memory, was there ever any conversation during those meetings about us looking at pulling money out of this maintenance fund to make those repairs when the commission wouldn't approve it?
When you're talking $3 million out of essentially $5 million for maintenance, not really, you know.
Consider it. Well, and I understand it's a lot more money.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot more money.
All right. Thank you for that. Well, I just would like to go on record, and Coach Rivas and Principal Creasy, please understand, I'm not without empathy at all, and I'm a huge baseball fan. But I am also a very, very strong fiscal conservative, and I just want to go on record as saying that I think this expenditure coming out of any budget right now with all the needs that we have in our school system for things that I think would be larger safety issues and or needs for our classrooms and for teaching, I just don't see that it's justified. So.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Are there other comments from other board members? Going to need a motion here for something from someone eventually.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate Mr. Holliday's comments on the lights and Ms. Moore's. We did carry this to the Budget and Finance a few months ago, and they told us it was a maintenance problem. So we'd have to take it out of our maintenance money, the best I remember. Is that correct? Siegel's had this problem since day one. It's a bad situation for them and school system. I wish that hadn't have come up in the days they built that field. They should have done it correctly instead of trying to please everybody in the world. But that's what happens sometimes. So I'd like to make a motion to repair the lights at Siegel.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Estes and seconded by Mr. Young.
Mr.
More
Chairman,
discussion, yes.
in the current format of the motion, will there be able to be any action on this? Does it need to be specified whether it would be fund balance versus maintenance, or are we satisfied that the motion is worded appropriately to give us freedom and discretion to make whatever decisions?
Sandy, what do you need?
I would take the motion that was just presented as being that we should cover it from the maintenance budget.
Is that acceptable?
Sure.
Mr. Estes, Mr. Young? Okay. I think they're saying that that's what they intended. Other comments? You've heard the motion and the second. If there are no further comments, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there opposition?
Yes, nay.
No, it's 6-1, Ms. Moore. Opposing? Anything else on I don't guess so, on Siegel. I've got a comment to make here in a second, but.
We may have to bid this because of the amount. I just don't want that to get lost in it.
Right. We will check tomorrow and in the next few days to see if there is a bid from another school system that was, you can set up a bid or a request for proposals so that other systems, other governmental entities in Tennessee can use that same bid. If we cannot find one, we will have to go out for bid and bring a bid back to y'all for y'all's approval because of the dollar amount.
It's possibly that they might, being in that neighborhood out there, that this might be the only company that offers this also. So they may be unique in that. We just got to check all that out.
One other clarification, I really, when we did go to Budget and Finance before, some said, well, don't do LED, do something else that costs less, and all. We ran into that too. But I would really, based on what you said last night, I would really like to push it for it to be the LED because I think we'll save enough money over the years to more than make up the difference. But, I mean, I just want that clarification. If we wind up with an RFP and have to do specs, personally, I'd rather do it with the LED side because of the life expectancy of the bulb and the reduced cost of operation. But just, I hate to have to come back to y'all, just how you feel about that or what you want us to do in that regard.
I agree. I think we need to be most efficient. So whatever the most efficient lighting is, that's where we need to go.
In addition to that, I would add that the research that I did also spoke to the benefits of the LED. The metal halide bulbs are expected to last perhaps as much as 2.5, possibly 3 years, and then you have to re-lamp those fixtures. And those bulbs cost anywhere from $125 to $175 a piece, whereas the LED still have 90% of the illumination that they were originally installed with after 62,000 hours of use. And so these are fixtures that do not have to be, the bulbs don't have to be changed. They have a much longer life expectancy and they're more efficient to run in the first place. I think that we may indeed, as a board, be setting a precedent and need to look at the capital improvements projects moving forward with these LED systems. We put LED systems inside of our schools in the classrooms for energy efficiency and also for the superior lighting, and it may be as we go forward that this is the first of many lighting projects for athletic fields.
Okay, I was going to address that, so I don't have to. Is there anything else from anyone else? Coach Revis, thank you. Mr. Creasy, thank you.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it
very much.
Yes, sir. Number 10, Mr. Director.
Okay, financial matters. This is the insurance proceeds from a general purpose school budget. This amendment takes $388,199 in insurance recovery funds that we have received or will receive for the Blackman Wrestling Building, $336,048, and the Riverdale Concession Stand, which is $52,151, and budgets these funds so that the rebuilding and replacement projects can proceed. Recommend approval. The motion is to amend $336,048 in insurance recovery funds for the Blackman Wrestling Building and related expenses, and to amend $52,151 in insurance recovery funds for the Riverdale Concession Stand and related expenditures as presented.
Any questions for the director? We discussed these last night, as I told the audience earlier. We've discussed many of these already, and that's not saying that we don't discuss them tonight necessarily, but Ms. Moore.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yeah, I do have a couple of questions. When it says this amendment takes the $388,199 in insurance recovery funds, and then it splits them out as to how much for the Blackman Wrestling Building, how much for the concession stand, is that how those insurance claims were paid, or did we just take that total and make decisions based on our estimates how much should go to each. That is the way they were paid. Because I assume that obviously they were separate.
What is the people that come and evaluates after a fire or something like that? The adjusters came in, and this is what they came up with.
I guess really my only other question is that covering everything as far as the rebuilding and repair, or can you speak to Mr. Sandvik what the system's going to be out of pocket?
We have a $100,000 deductible on each
That's right. Okay.
job.
Thank you. Yeah, I need to.
For every occurrence. So each one of those has $100,000 taken out of it.
My understanding is this, all we're doing tonight is accepting the money. We're not, not doing anything else other than accepting the money.
Further questions for the director on number 10, financial matters? I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Ms. Moore, Mr. Hodge, will you take a second on this? All right, thank you, Mr. Hodge. Any further comment? All in favor of the recommended approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Number 11.
Number 11, if you'll let me, allow me to step to the stand, we'll kind of take a look.
By all means. Join the soil judging crew while you're over there.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to kind of present what the state of Rutherford County schools are, and looking mostly at the state report card for 2017, which has been out a couple of weeks. You have a copy of my presentation, board members, if you want to take some notes and take a look at it. And as typically what I do, I'll show you some of the things we're strongest. I'll show you some areas where we also have needs as we go through this. But please stop me if you would need to at any time to talk about what you're seeing on the screen. I'll begin with this, and this is for people that may be watching us at home or you as a board member. If you're interested in seeing at the Tennessee State Department of Education website, you can go in, and if you'll select under the report card, take a look at that, then you will get an option here to look at any public school district and any public school in the state of Tennessee. So it's drop-down menus to look at any school that you would like. And again, this is on the State Department of Education's website under for students and families. It's in section it's in. As we go a little bit further, I'll let you take a look at this, and this is kind of the profile of what the Rutherford County schools look like in 16-17, and what does a state profile look like. And if you take a quick look at that, as you can see from the pie charts that are in this one, that Rutherford County is becoming very much like the whole state of Tennessee. You can see that now, and it shows visually for you. You can also see some of that in the percentages. And so we are really rather typical of the demographic structure that you see on average across the whole state of Tennessee. At the bottom, taking a look at our schools again, that information, but thought you might be interested in this on the right-hand side, taking a look over here. People ask, how many school districts we have in Tennessee? 146 last year. And that number went up. You have 95 counties, but you have the 146 school districts because several counties have multiple school districts. And the recent increase was in the Shelby County area, if you remember that, when they have several of the cities created their own. Of course, there are two school districts in Rutherford County, right? Murfreesboro City and Rutherford County. And so that's how you arrive at more than the number of counties that are involved. Here's another interesting thing for us to look at. Let's compare us to Tennessee, comparing a look at some other things. So last year, under ADM, they gave us credit for 44,067 students. This makes us the fourth largest school district in Tennessee. We did surpass Hamilton County. So you have your largest is basically Shelby County, Nashville, metropolitan Nashville, Knox County, and then Rutherford County. And of course, our number there does not include Murfreesboro. We would still be a little bit below Knox County in that, but really gaining on them rather quickly. So 44,067. Another interesting thing, and I have for you to look at, here's Rutherford County's finances on this side. This is the state of Tennessee finances. So a couple of things really jumped out at me very quickly. On the state average, per pupil expenditure is $9,957.80. In Rutherford County, your average expenditure, if you take a look at that, is $8,623.20. We actually spent $1,314.60 less than the state per pupil average in 16-17. And I'll say a little bit more about that in just a moment, but I want to point another thing or two out for you if we could. If you'll look at the local funding, because that's something our citizens and people in Rutherford County are interested in, roughly 40.32%, less than half of our monies, came from local Rutherford County expenditures as an operational expense. And then the state average was 39.83. So you have about a 0.5% difference, local monies in Rutherford County, than the state average. Where you start picking up more differences in looking federal funding. So in Rutherford County, 6.64% versus 11.82% for federal funding across the state of Tennessee. So we're somewhat less in federal. A lot of that is driven by other factors such as poverty numbers, things like that, that play into that. I would say to all of our parents and constituents, Rutherford County Schools is still doing a very good job of tapping into state funding. 53.02% came from state monies. Of course, we pay it through our sales tax and other taxes we do, but it's coming to the state back to Rutherford County for school operation, whereas across the state of Tennessee, that's only 48.35%. Mr. Holliday.
Mr. Odom, I wanted to point out the state funding is largely driven by our effectiveness at reporting our attendance and things of that nature. And as a board member, that is a figure right there that indicates to me the efficiency and the effectiveness of the central office staff. And so when I'm looking for something of are we running well at a particular school, we look at their test scores or their attendance rate or those kind of things. But how do we assess how the central office is working? And that number right there is a credit to our central office staff, because if we are reporting accurately and if we are on top of our figures that we send to the state, then more money comes back to our system. And I just wanted to put it in that context to give credit to the central office staff because of that figure.
You know, last year it was about $1,004, and I really knew it would probably change but could not quantify that, because last year included the amount when they gave us a special $5 million for technology funds, and then that was then diverted to other areas. So the reason it really dropped so much this year from last year was that additional $5 million. But this translates into something else and I shared this last night with Health and Ed. So what does that really mean in per pupil savings to the taxpayers of Rutherford County, the property owners, the taxpayers, the business? You have a state average of the $9,957. You have the Rutherford counties is $8,643. That's $1,314. So the property tax rate, because remember we have to share with the city of Murfreesboro, so for every penny on the property, for every property tax rate, every penny, we really only get $580,000 as we share with the city of Murfreesboro. So taking our enrollment of 44,067 students and saving $1,314 for each one of those students, had we spent the state average in Rutherford County Schools last year, it would have cost Rutherford County $57,930,478. So that savings, the efficiency in that, it translated into real monies. Now, if you look at the property tax rate with that $580,000 for every penny, had our local people had to pay for that in property taxes, we'd have had to add another $1 to the property tax rate. I did point out to the commissioners last night, you know, the new Rockvale High School, which will probably be paid over 20 years, $70,813,000 or so, we saved almost $58 million last year in 1 year in the difference that we did. I do not apologize for that, but that's what efficiency and paying attention. It's not always how much you spend, it's how you spend it and what you spend it on, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And I commend our commissioners for being a part of that. I mean, they go over our budget. They sit in this very room with you, and we go over it line item by line item. This is what we need. And unapologetically, I think it's working for the citizens of Rutherford County. And you as a board, go over it. You look at the line items. People could have watched tonight and see how you're watching monies and that sort of thing, but that's how it happens. Another interesting thing, which I'm not going to read all of this, you do not, because you'll have to go home and sit down and look at it. One of the questions that comes up sometimes, I picked out a series of other counties. I thought really interesting here, the state's achievement school district spending over $11,000 a student. That's, you know, when the school districts gets in trouble and the schools or something like that and the state takes them over, well, they really up the amount of money they pour into it. I thought that was really quite interesting, above the state average. But again, we got 5% less in federal. I think in the next line item too from state, 4.67% less. Economically disadvantaged, we're not as high economically disadvantaged as the state. Now, 21.4%, and let me tell you what they've done in the last 2 years. They went to direct certification. If you take the total number of free students and reduced students in Rutherford County, that number is going to be closer to 39 to 40 to 41%. But so the state, so that it would be equal across the whole state, went to direct certification, which is kind of like food stamps. And so they send us back the names of the students who are direct certified. We don't do it. But then parents come in and fill out additional paperwork and may qualify for free or reduced. And anyone that qualifies for that's going to receive it. So your actual number of free reduced is going to be higher than that number. So just let you know that. Mr. Holliday, you've spoken of this one before. A time or two I created for you last year. How many teachers do we have per administrator in Rutherford County Schools? We have 21.2. If you look at the state as a whole, they have 11.9. So our administrators are serving about double the number. One of the things is our schools are large. And so you do wind up, you have a lot of schools across the state are that 300, 350, 400, and they put a principal and assistant principal, and that certainly changes it. But are we hiring a lot of extra administrators? No, and there's the numbers to prove it. Our administrators work very hard and are covering a lot of teachers and a lot of evaluations when you stop. And look who they include in administrators. I put you the footnote down there. This is all, that includes me, the principal, the supervisors, the assistant principals, and people in this office too, when they come up with that calculation. So I find that interesting, that they would include that. So we're about the same as the state average. When you add all these people in, you do all of this together, we have about 14.8 students per teacher, and the state's 14.9. So very similar. Class size, same. See, they count librarians, they count guidance counselors, they count all that thing. You're not going to find very many classes that's going to be 14 or 15 students, but when you add in the people that it takes to operate the school and it's required, then that's where that comes in. So you can look that over and compare us with some other districts if you would like in that. Going a little bit further, and this is, again, straight out of the report card, graduation rate for Rutherford County, again, this past year, we had a 95.3% graduation rate. The Tennessee average is 89.1. But let me tell you one of the things that I am very proud of, and I think it stands out for Rutherford County. You have your ethnic breakdown over here. You also have male, female, but look at your, look over here at our graduation rate. In Rutherford County, you do not see large variations in the graduation rate based on ethnicity. You won't find that in a lot of other places, you know. Very equitable, very much in our delivery of addressing the needs of whomever that student might be. Real compliment to our people. ACT scores, again, up. We were at, this year taking a look at it for Rutherford County is 20.8. The state average was 20.1, so we're above the state average. We did have 3 schools, and the 21 is the break point that the state is using as their target percentage of ACT of 21, which they'll use for calculations, Hope scholarships, other things that they take a look at. We did have 3 schools that exceeded that: Blackman High at 21.7, Central Magnet at 30, and Stewart's Creek High at 21.1. So just point that out. Taking a look at below, how about the Hope Scholarship? Now, what's nice about the Hope Scholarship? It's a 4-year scholarship. Tennessee Promise is 2. Hope Scholarship is a 4-year scholarship. So it does open it up more for students and where they might go. There's some things other than just the ACT. You do have to have that 21 for the Hope, but it's also grade point average and everything like that. But we're approaching we're approaching the 50% mark of half of our students being eligible for a Hope Scholarship. That would be a really nice goal. I'd like to see more than half of our students getting the Hope Scholarship, getting 4 years of college paid, not just 2 under Tennessee Promise. That's still quite a bit above the state average of 42.2. So that's kind of interesting for you to see. And you girls do a little better than the boys if you take a look at that there sometimes in that respect. Okay, let's take a look at the TVAS composite, which you know is value-added, Tennessee Value-Added Assessment System, being the long name for TVAS. What's your comparison? Upper left-hand corner is on the state report card, all 5s. This year, we were one of the systems in the state. We're not the only system in the state to get all 5s. Knox County received all 5s, Williamson County all 5s, Montgomery County all 5s. Some of the other counties you might compare us to, Hamilton did not. Oak Ridge, which, we used to compare a lot of times to Oak Ridge, as far as value added, taking students where they are and moving them ahead, they're not a 5. You look at Wilson County, they weren't a 5. You look at Sumner County, they weren't a 5 all the way out. So that's interesting to me. I had the ability to drill down a little bit more. And remember that if you look at let me go back to the previous one. That only includes your overall, it only includes the literacy, the numeracy, literacy and numeracy together. So it's a difference. So I did drill down a little bit further, which is not on the state report card. And I have marked there these systems that had to include a high school. I didn't include them if they were elementary because they don't have. I added the courses of science composite and social studies composite. Any of you board members notice anything about that? We receive, here's Rutherford County, 5s all the way across, and when you even put in science and social studies, we're still a 5. Any of you notice anything special about that one? Now, Mr. Hodgson, Williamson County had all 5s, and the other was reported, but you go down here, they had a 1 for their social studies in Williamson, right there. Wilson had a 1. And a 2 there for science. So really, really balanced across all of the subjects, the reading, the language arts, the math, the science, and the social studies. You see that 5. I'm very proud of that. If you really go back and look, there are not many large counties that make a 5 all the way across. Take a look up there. Collierville, that's one of those new ones out of Memphis. Dyersburg, Fentress, Germantown. Knox County did. Montgomery County, Polk County, and Rutherford County. Is really out of the 146 that I saw, really had 5s all the way across that include the high school subject, include science and social studies. I'm proud of that. Yes. I hope you are. That's taking kids where they are and moving them far. And remember, those effect scores, 1 to 5, 1 the lowest, 5 the highest you can do. And if you look the definition of it up, it is statistically significantly higher than what's expected. If you just get what's expected, you're going to get a 3. But if you're producing more than that, you can get a 4 or a 5. So I was very proud of this slide also. Another thing that I might share with you, and I took this one this was actually done by Stanford study, done this last year, and Commissioner McQueen has used this. So I'm going to make a positive pitch to the state of Tennessee Department of Education here. Green is high value added. Purple and the darker colors is less value added. In other words, it's what you're looking at. When you look at the whole eastern half of the United States, what do you see about the state of Tennessee that kind of stands out? Look at the green. And that goes to show why has Tennessee been growing so fast in NAEP scores, National Assessment of Educational Progress. Why are other states looking at Tennessee and what's done in Tennessee? And we're one of those little green ones there too, right? South and southeast of Nashville in that. But Tennessee itself can be very proud. And this is done by Stanford. They're not going to cut us any slack, I don't think, Yes, sir.
Odom, I'm not familiar totally with that, with the Stanford study, but I do remember reading some of it, that a lot of the high voucher areas are purple. The state of Florida is a very strong voucher state.
Here's Florida.
And it's purple. And we're not voucher, and we're green. And I would think that says volumes.
The teachers, administrators in Tennessee are working very, very hard and producing good results. And I just thought that was such a visual picture, I just had to share it. It just jumps out at you when you look at it. And it makes us proud as a state also, not only as a district. But that, you can find that on the internet too. But the commissioner has used it a few times also. Another thing that's going, Rutherford County versus comparable districts for grades 3 through 5. I saw this early as September. And looking at, in fact, the State Department of Education and our comparable, they selected this for us. We didn't. They selected Hamilton, Knox, Sumner, Robertson, and Wilson, and Rutherford as the districts together. They asked me at the directors' conference last September to chair this group of school systems. So I did chair that as we talked together about comparable districts. Probably if I were picking comparable districts, I would pick a little bit different combination of those districts. They basing that on, didn't share it fully with us, but they kind of basing that on some demographics, some free reduced numbers, some other factors in their formula for doing that. But the thing that kind of stood out for me, which I was really glad, and this is grades 3 through 5, what stood out for me, the box is Rutherford County. The little dot there is all the other districts in our comparable group, which are these down here. So you can see in all of these up here, we did much better than what the state considered to be our comparable group. And this is not value added. This is time is on track or mastered. This is achievement side. The other was the value added. This is the achievement side. Now I show you the good and the tough ones. The two tough areas for us where we were really below is with our English language learners and also students with disabilities, which are very often your most difficult groups in taking a look at that. So again, we are, I believe we are the 4th largest number of EL students in the state of Tennessee. The highest number is Metro Nashville. Number 2 is Shelby County. And Knox and us go kind of real close, but in this state report card, they had us by a little bit. So, you know, our 2,300 or so. And I might throw this out to you. I asked our people in ELL this week, well, how many languages do we now speak in Rutherford County? I shared this, y'all, about 2 years ago, and the number was 80, right? 80 languages and dialect. The number this week, and I actually have a graph in my office in there, there's now 100. You're talking about a diverse county. Rutherford County is very, very diverse. 100 languages and dialects spoken in Rutherford County schools. That's one reason this is tough. And you know, a lot of ours are first time coming into the United States people. We get them very often when they come in for the first time, and so we have to move them the furthest in dealing with that. Find that interesting. So that's just grades 3 through 5. Take a look at 6 through 8. We actually, in 6 through 8, beat our comparable group with students with disabilities. But we also, though, in 6 through 8, our middle schools actually have the spread even much wider than they did 3 through 5 over our comparable counties. English language learners still, again, but I think I attribute, sounds like an excuse, but I attribute a lot of it to the fact that we're seeing so many new students that we need to move ahead. It's tough in that case. So that's 6-8. Going another step, here's 9-12. You'll find 9-12, some of the very same patterns. Our high schools are also above that comparable group that Tennessee identified, really kind of on the same with students with disabilities, but again, the very toughest English language learners. We get a number of high school students that come into us that have not been in school for years. Some of them have been in refugee camps and other places too. So it's, but our ELL department really does a good job. It's just one of our toughest areas. So it's a challenge for us. As we talk about tonight, what's our achievements and what's our challenge, you can kind of see some of our challenge or some of our at-risk students in those two areas. Another thing that we might take a look at, and the last one was math. Well, was ELL. This one is math. As you kind of take a look at that, so math very much the same. Taking a look. Here's another way to look at it, and you can kind of look at that numbers if you want to, with the comparable districts again. Just kind of the same thing that you see on the graph in there. When you take a look at that, and success rate for 3 through 5, Rutherford County is 48.5%. The comparable group they picked for us is 45.7%, and that kind of showed up on the graph. On ACT, our demonstrating college and career readiness, 42.7%. The state's comparable group for us is really 41.4%. CTE out there again, which will not surprise you, is where we really do shine. If you'll take a look at this one right here, 61% of our students that are concentrated in CTE being ready for college, 61% of ours are. Of that comparable group, you only have 40.8%. We beat them almost 20 percentage points in being college ready coming out of our CTE program. Backs up some of your statistics tonight, right? And it shows up here. You can do it. They are real numbers to take a look at. In the early post-secondary, you see some of the same things. So anyway, that's there for your perusal to look at a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to look at some more of the state report card, other pieces of it that's there, and again, you can access it online if you would like. This deals with teacher and administrator, 140 administrators. This is principal, assistant principal, that sort of thing. This again, as you look at your number of teachers, 29, 69 last year. Here's another fact that I thought might be interesting to you. The majority of our teachers have an advanced degree in Rutherford County Schools. The largest number we have a master's, and then when you add your doctorates and your EDSs and and here's your BS people, and BA is 1390, but the majority of our teachers are advanced degree teachers in Rutherford County. So again, I think you can be proud of that particular factor. Just to kind of the thing, the next thing is, where's Tennessee going? Where does that make us have to go? Remember, here's Tennessee's goals, and schools have to align with these goals as we do our own district improvement plans, school improvement plans. We have to align with the state goals. So Tennessee's goals is to be in the top half of the states on NAEP, or the National Assessment of Progress, by 2019, and Tennessee is well on the way to working on that. This is the most critical factor of all. Tennessee would like to have 75% of Tennessee third graders be proficient in reading by 2025. What are we in Rutherford County now? You've thrown out some figures to me in that.
Which is a nationally normed assessment for them.
So we pay a lot of attention to this. This is why it's so important to, if you're going to have the building up top, you got to have the foundation at the bottom. And the reading and that sort of thing is the foundation. Reading and early math is the foundation for the student. So that's the state goal by 2025. ACT Composite 21 by 2020. I hope we get that this year. The majority of the high school graduates, and I don't know how they're going to measure, it's going to take a while. Tennessee wants the majority of the high school graduates from the class of 2020 to earn a post-secondary degree or certificate. So it would probably be at least 4 years out from 2020 before they can measure that, I would think, what you're trying to do. Ambitious goals. Here's another thing that I thought would be really interesting to take a look at. I wanted to really see where we are. Now, this is Every Student Succeeds Act. ESSA is the way that we say it. Interesting to me, this is our district goals. So I want to point out to you that each district in the state and every school in the state has different goals. All of those goals have to lead to those previous ones that I was showing you about, the number that have to be reading, math, all that sort of thing. This is Rutherford County's goal. So this last year in 16-17, 29% of our students were in high school math. The state average was 21.5%. This is the on-track or master, the two highest levels. And so we were required to have 25.8, but we got 29. So we met that goal easily last year. When you take a look at high school English language arts and reading, our goal was 39.1. Our goal was 34.8% for 16-17. We made 42.8%. Tennessee, 34.7. Last year, if we do not lose ground, we made our goal for this year at 42.8 is higher than what we'll have to have for the end of this year, 17-18. So we're ahead of the game in that one. Here's another one here, high school science. Again, Rutherford County's science was at 64.4%. Tennessee is at 51%. That on track or higher. We only had to attain 52.1, but got 64.4. We really, last year, met the goal for Rutherford County for 2019-20. So we're about 2 to 3 years ahead of that goal right now. If we can hold it and everything holds together, we can attain that. Graduation rate, one of the things that we do very well. Remember, the 2025 rate is a 95% graduation rate for the state of Tennessee. This last year, we certainly had 95.3, and Tennessee had 89.1. So as long as we can keep our graduation rate going with our students, we've met the 24-25 goal already. Met it this last year.
You know, as we've looked at some of the paperwork on other interests that we're looking at right now, we're looking at some things that we did 5 or 6 years ago in recruiting a director of schools. And 5 or 6 years ago, our graduation rate was reported in that literature at 91%. And under your leadership as director of schools, we're now at 95.3%. Outstanding job.
You've hired graduation coaches that are tracking these students. We do things like summer school still, not many school systems. If a kid gets behind in credits, we have night school classes, you know, to do that. And some of this was even started, certainly before my time. But our teachers and guidance counselors are paying a lot of attention to this. And so, again, I attribute it to really teamwork, having a focus, having a goal, and paying attention to that. I want to remind you of something again, because I said I would also give you the challenges here. So what are the challenges? Some for Rutherford County as we take a look at this. And this is the high school ESSA. Remember, what we do this year, unless the state legislature changes it, will come to letter grades sometime next fall or winter. So for the 17-18 year, we will receive letter grades. This is a sampling up here. This is not Rutherford County. I'll repeat that again. This is not Rutherford County's grades because they haven't been determined yet. This sample. You have all of these things which will be for the high school achievement growth, opportunity to learn, which is 10% of your weight. The opportunity to learn is the chronic absenteeism at 10%. Be students that can't miss more than 10% of the days they belong in school. Readiness is the factor. So the big challenge, I think, for us as a district and for schools all across the state of Tennessee and every one of our high schools is this readiness factor. It counts 20%. It's a fifth of their overall grade. And how do you be ready under the state's definition? You have to score 21 or you have to have early post-secondary. Now, for the 17-18 year, the state has not completed the early post-secondary. So I want to tell you, for grades for this year in readiness relies entirely on ACT of 21. Now, and here's the interesting thing, the way the state's doing this scoring. If you make the 21, that's a C. So to get above a C, if that's the expected and that's a C, then you're going to have higher than 21 to get an A or a B. And that's true with all of these things up here. If you meet the minimum goal, you saw those targets that I showed you a few minutes ago. If you meet those, what your target is for your school, when they put it together, if you just meet that, you're going to get a C. I do think the state report card is going to be the most misunderstood thing when it comes out to try to explain and help people understand that I've ever seen. I can't see how it's going to help public education or people in general. But that's the challenge. Here's another challenge in this letter grading thing. Again, subgroups, it takes 30 or 35, Mr. Zago, 30 or 35 student subgroup. 30? 30 students can make a subgroup. Let's suppose I'm in a high school in a subgroup that only had 36 students. Guess what? That's in one of their identified subgroups. That's still going to count 40% of my grade, and all of my kids together is going to be 60%. That is a really not understandable way to rate that, in my opinion. And one of that came out of Washington a little bit. That's part of ESSA, that you had to focus on subgroups. And subgroups for Rutherford County is Black, Native American, Asian, Hispanic, yeah. So you group those together, or you can take them individually or so. But a real challenge is in schools so diverse that we are, this is going to be a tough area for our schools and for us as a district. When you talk about 100 languages that you're talking about. So anyway, that's in the future. Now here's my sheet for you tonight. Here's your vision statement for Rutherford County. It's been that way for a while, to prepare today's students for tomorrow's opportunity. So what do I as a director see as the challenges for us this year and probably coming on down the road? Our biggest challenge, and you know that, is still our enrollment growth. When you look at 1,000 more students every year, over 2%, about 2.3% already this year, that impacts your budget, the staff that you need, and the facilities that you have to have. That's one of the reasons we were last night at Health and Ed, and in another week we'll be at Budget and Finance talking about this. But for Rutherford County, this growth is so unusual across the state of Tennessee. There, West Tennessee County is losing students. There, East Tennessee County is losing students. But Middle Tennessee students are really coming in large numbers. That's a real challenge. So I think that's probably number one goal, and has been issue for us, maybe not goal, but issue for us over the years. Here's the other one, and I pointed this out already. For every school, if you ask the principal and then, what's your challenge here now? It's going to be that letter grade target. And that involves achievement, value added, that readiness, that ACT of 21, chronic absenteeism, and English language learner. This right here just includes that. And I really wish the state legislature, in their wisdom, would take a look at those letter grades, because I don't see how that's necessarily going to help us. But that's going to be a huge factor going into the future. Now here's my kind of new one. Technology. We have got to start expanding technology capabilities to acquire a computer for every student in our designated. We've got to phase it in. We've waited a while. We took the $5 million. We changed and used that for our infrastructure mainly, to put the nodes in the hallways and the classrooms, to change the pipeline so that you can get 45,000 students on the internet. You're going to test them on the internet, that sort of thing, and all too. So we spent that $5 million. Rutherford County is behind here in trying to provide the computers for every student. So our people are working on a plan. You're going to start seeing things appear in the budget. We're going to have to sell to people. And one of the key things here that we've really got to do, I've already told you, elementary science books this year, one of the things that stands out, only one of them offers a book. The rest of them are online. So you're entering an era, and this is just going to get more so. You know that from at home. We're going to enter an era where the textbooks that you have are going to be online. Rutherford County has to get with that. This will not be cheap, because you have to have the device, have to have the recharging capabilities, certainly the infrastructure which we hope we've built. But we've talked about this with Mr. Solomon, Mr. Zago, and us. We've spent some time talking about how to do this. We have some devices now in taking a look at it. Not the Chromebooks, but some of the other devices that really handle the Windows. We furnish for all of our students Microsoft Office. You can get that free of charge, even at home, to parents. If you haven't heard this before, ask your child. As long as you're a student in Rutherford County or a teacher in Rutherford County schools, you got Microsoft Office at no charge, as long as here. So you can put that on your computer, and students can work with it. And we really do benefit our people. The only competitor really to Microsoft is Google Docs. But most likely when kids get out of school and go to work, they're probably going to be on the Microsoft Office program. So we do that. But the actual cost now for some of these that could be put in a student's hand is now somewhere like the $299 to $300 or so. We're going to have to select a device that we want our students to use, provide it to them, and they may use it for 3 years. There's several ways you can do that. You can purchase them, or you can choose to lease them. With the 3 years, they go back. There's not a lot of difference in cost when you take a look at it. But let me tell you something else that's going to happen here. Once we designate a device, and once we disseminate what that's going to be, guess what parents are going to buy for birthday presents and Christmas presents and that? What you will see is, I want my kid to have their own that belongs to them. And so I think you'll see Rutherford County and the citizens of Rutherford County join us in this process of getting these in the hands of our students. And it's time that we start looking at, we need to move that direction, because this is an area where we are behind in that. So that's the big three that I see. There's always something out there, but that's the big three. But what about us in Rutherford County? I think the biggest thing in all, we're exemplary district for 2016-17. Not everybody made that. Spent $1,300, 57 million less than the other, and still came out of exemplary district. You've done a good job as board members supporting this program and achieving this. Our teachers, our administrators, parents, and joining us in this efforts to make these achievements. But this is kind of the payoff that we got here. Any comments or anything you'd like to say? Board?
Also commend you on this presentation. It's very enlightening.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. Thank you. Insurance update. Dr. Anthony, Mr. Sandy, anything that we didn't go over last night?
Same information that our meeting for tomorrow has been canceled. We'll be talking in February about, we'll be discussing the upcoming rates. I think Mr. Sembic had mentioned last night that we're looking at an 8% increase starting for January 2019 on insurance.
Any questions for Dr. Anthony?
Just one, real quickly, if I may. The 8%, are we talking about health care insurance? Okay, so we're not talking any of the other lines or anything. 8% is pretty good with some of the renewals that are coming out for other companies. So.
Okay. Director's update.
Some of you have already been contacted by parents about something that's happened. Mr. Brown, can you put that policy up, if you will? I asked him to put it on. The reason I said put it on, you have a copy. It's a 6-page policy. It's a grading policy by the State Board of Education. It's 6 pages. I copied you the 2 relevant pages, but it's policy 3.301. He's got the, we're going first to page 1. Just stay on page 1 there. And I have it highlighted if you'll go to the highlighted section. This is the policy the State Board passed kind of a few, actually it's been a few years ago now, that encouraged students to take more rigorous courses. That column out on the side you see, advanced placement, Cambridge, IB, CLEP, Internet, all of those, to add 5 percentage points to a student's grade for taking a more rigorous test. Now the State Board also set what's an A. Before the State Board set this, A's were, I found this most interesting. They had us all do, they did a survey. What's an A in your district? Ours was 93. Williamson was something like 90. And Cannon County was 95. You had to score to get an A. So what was happening is, as they were going to college all across, he said, what does a GPA mean when everybody's got a different cutoff score to get their A, B, C? So the State Board locked it in. And interestingly enough, the one they chose was the one Rutherford County had been using all along. So they did lock that in. So everybody now has the same GPA. Now, a district can do, and they went to the 4.0 GPA. Now, a district, there's been bills introduced in the legislature. Williamson County and some others actually wanted a weighted GPA. But the legislature said, oh, you can keep both if you want to, but the official is the 4.0 GPA, which is your A, is the 4 points and that. So that's what's been done in that particular case to level the playing field. So this is what our students, your dual credit, your advanced courses, honors courses. We have honors, advanced honors, AP, IB, and you can see across that bottom how many points you get for those. Now here's what the change was made, and the revision is 10/20/17. And if you have parents call you, this is what it's going to be. If you go to page number 4, Mr. Brown. And I do not, I don't want to speak out, I do not like this policy, but it is a state board policy. We weren't asked ahead of time, do you like this policy? Or do you have any suggestions about this policy? But here's what I do not like about it. If you kind of look where I have highlighted there, all the APs, the Cambridge, the IBs, all of those are eligible for additional percentage point weighting for students who sit for the line culminating exam. So the parents are calling you and saying what they've done is they said on that first page, hey, you can get 5 extra points, you can get 3 points or 4 points, but they added in their policy, you got to sit for the exam to get it. Now here's my thought. The learning occurs in the class, not the test. Right? Now, what is it about taking the exam? It's going to cost you $90+ for every kid to take the AP exam. State doesn't pay for it. We don't pay for it. So you got people who might like to take these courses. It's not going to cost them any extra to take the course unless you put something like this in here. Now, that means the kid who pays $90-something, sits for the exam, they can make an 88, add the 5 points, and come out with a 93. But if you don't take that exam or you can't afford that exam and you make 88, you got a B. Here's the effect of this is you're going to have fewer kids taking AP and IB, these high-level courses. And that's not what we want to do. That's not what we want to do. We want to encourage kids to take the more rigorous courses. We want to encourage them to pay for it. And you go to the next paragraph. Districts may award additional weighting to the grades of students who have completed an AP, Cambridge, International, IB, or course aligned with industry certification or CLEP prior to sitting for the culminating exam. In other words, we can go ahead and add them. We can add that 5 points to them to start with as they're working through the year. If quality points are awarded prior to culmination of the participation in the culminating exam, the district shall have a policy to remove the quality points if the student does not participate in the culminating exam by the end of the school year in which the course was completed.
So,
yes, ma'am.
May I ask a question on that point? It says the district shall have a policy to remove quality points. So, is it contradicting itself, though?
I think a lot in the policy contradicts itself. I can tell you where I think this came from. If you remember that early post-secondary, when you go back to the readiness, it was a big factor that the high schools have to have 20% of their grades going to be readiness. You have to have an ACT of 21 or early post-secondary. One of the ways you get early post-secondary is take AP courses or IB courses or some of those. So they wrote in their ESSA plan that unless you take the test, that course cannot count towards early post-secondary. Now let me tell you something. The kids who take IB and AP are going to make a 21 on ACT. I mean, it's illogical for those of us who have been practicing this for a few years to think that. I mean, what are you helping here? I just see this as it's in place. It's not going to change now, certainly in the short term. But because the state board just put it in policy, but I just really wish sometimes we as districts and all, when you have a policy meeting here at this board, when you're developing policy, you have representatives from classified, you have parents, you have community people, every one of you board members sit on it. We have administrators sitting on it. It's televised very often. We put it out there and you get all of this input. And then after the policy committee approves, it still has to come to your state board and you have to do 2 readings on it. But you are very transparent. That's not happening necessarily at the state level. So do not be surprised, and probably parents at Central Magnet. They take a lot of AP courses. That's one of the reasons they got such a high ranking in schools is how many kids took an AP course. But does it discourage kids to take an AP course if you're going to penalize them and take 5 points away based upon this policy? And so the reason I wanted you to know this and spend time talking about this tonight, it's not Rutherford County Central Office or Rutherford County administrators that are doing this. You've been contacted already, I know.
Yeah, I've been bombarded today, and needless to say, Central Magnet, and rightfully so, because they have such a large number of students that take these AP courses, just like their standard courses for their kids. And a few of the things that the parents are asking and kind of challenging us with that I would like for us to at least attempt to try to speak to is, first of all, the state board passed this back in October. So it was after the school year had already begun. So we've got parents saying, well, wait a minute, is that even legal? Because my kids were already registered for these AP classes. We might have looked at it differently had we known this was coming. And can they really do that in the middle of a school year after it was too late for me to even pull that child from that course and select something different? Second question they're asking is, was there any notification that went out from us as a school system about this? I mean, I know we talked about it, I think, at a board meeting back in possibly November. Because I guess some of the parents were a bit concerned, kind of felt like they got blindsided by not hearing about it until the other night, I guess, or the other day when the principal spoke to the kids about it. And they're also, you know, what I'm hearing is, hey, you know, basically what you're telling us now, not us, but, you know, what we're being told now is that if we want our kids to get the benefit of the grades from these courses that they've been getting all along, we got to pay for it. Yes. So,
That's
well,
exactly
I guess
what it is. That's exactly what's been said. You're right. You're right.
And it's sickening. And, you know, the cost of those tests for parents that have kids taking lots of those AP classes, it adds up. I can attest to that. So, I guess the question would be, how can something like this be overturned or reversed? Is this something that the legislature can? Because I know several of them have reached out to their legislators.
State legislature always trumps state board. They typically do not necessarily do this. This may be one of those items. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 principals here. They can. Okay, you're 5 actually, but that she's not involved with the. Yes.
Can we let
Dr.
them speak to it?
I mean, you may want to hear from them this policy because, you know, I'm not one giving the AP, but they live it day by day. So if you want her to or one of them to speak, Dr. Justice is actually the high school principal's lead this year in our high school PLC. So,
could we get a head count as far as the district, the number of our students that are in AP classes across the county?
That could be done probably through our iNow software. How many are planning to take the test, though, we would not know necessarily. You might know at your school, but we wouldn't necessarily know.
So we've always had, and probably the other high schools too, have had in our course selection catalog that part of taking an AP class, it was taking the exam as well. And I have to say that I truly believe in students taking that exam. It's a great experience for a student before they go to college to take a comprehensive exam like an AP exam. I'm going to tell you it's something different. Well, you probably know if you've had children taking those exams, but it's a comprehensive exam. What they see in college will equal that or not even be as hard. I also tell parents that $90 for the exam is the cheapest college credit they'll probably ever get, including even our dual enrollment courses because they have to buy textbooks for those. But having said that, so I do believe in taking the exam, and I hope we can continue to expect that and encourage that. But the biggest concern that we had when we presented it to our teachers and then they were talking to their students is number one. Exactly what you said is that this was not in place when everyone signed up for these exams. For us, it was always the expectation, so it was kind of the kids were like, oh, we thought we had to anyway. So, but if they didn't, or if they came from a school that didn't require that, then that would be a big, so that was number one. And number two is, is the cost. And again, if it's expected, if it's required to get the 5 points, then we do have a lot of people asking about help with that financially. But again, I have to restate that it is the cheapest college credit they'll ever get. And usually when you turn around, to parents with that, they'll say, oh, yeah, that's true. Because I think an average college credit right now at just a state school is probably $450 a credit. Yeah.
Question for you, though, Dr. Justice. My understanding, too, and we're college shopping this year, is that there are some universities, and if I'm not mistaken, University of Knoxville, UT Knoxville is one of them, that they may accept the credit, but the student still gets charged the semester tuition.
I've never heard of that.
Credit for that class.
I've never heard of that.
Never heard it, but we were actually told that at UT. So.
The colleges, of course, have the call on whether they accept the credits or not, and what score the student has to make in order to accept that credit. And I will say that I know firsthand UT Knoxville, if you're going to major in a certain, like chemistry or biology, like my daughter did, that they'll ask you to go ahead and retake that course anyway. So it's all on the colleges what they take or don't take. We just make sure students, if they know where they're going, they check that out first. Anything to add? Who else is here? Mr. Tollett, any?
We can ask the question. I don't know from the legal part. You pass it in October. That's an interesting, and I'm not a legal person, but that is an interesting take on that. What is the state giving as an answer for that? Right.
You made a call because when we first started this, I know that, Mr. Zager.
I'm somewhat familiar with the expense involved in dual enrollment as well as the AP classes. How about CLEP exams? Are they somehow more affordable or something like that? Does anyone in the room have knowledge of that?
115. We don't have BD students or any that I know of actually taking those CLEP exams.
Dr. Justice, do you have any taking CLEPs?
I think at MTSU it's $115, I believe.
That's what I'm thinking too. After you.
Okay. The reason I bring it up is.
Did, I think.
Yeah. The reason I bring it up is if the CLEP exam was $45 and the AP was $90, let's teach an AP class and then take the CLEP exam, or something like that. But if that's not a financial advantage, then that doesn't make any sense. It's important to me to put in place again who is responsible for this, and it's the State Board of Education.
State Board of Education reacts to what the State Department of Education brings them.
Understood. So very likely on the recommendation of the Department of Education, a bunch of bureaucrats, to the State Board of Education, a bunch of appointed people, this has been put in place. And we may indeed be dependent on our elected legislators to help us remedy this. And in the spirit of remedy, we can complain about it, we can point out problems, but I really like the idea that in Rutherford County we find ways to overcome this stuff. I think that we should task our attorney to assist us in a resolution to the State Board of Education that appeals for the effective date of this to be pushed to June 1st of 2018. And if that resolution is not met with some type of positive response, then it may indeed be appropriate for us to consider legal action on behalf of our students who signed up under one set of rules and then had the rug pulled out from under them at the Christmas break. So I would offer that for board comment and possibly for a motion in a moment. And then also a resolution to our state legislators to pay for these exams. If these exams are going to be mandated, then we expect funding for those exams. If all of these exams were paid for, then we'd be exactly where the students at Blackman are. Well, if I sign up for that class, I'm going to take that exam at the end, and the experience will be beneficial. $5, not enough.
$85. One of the things that concerns me about this is we have a number of very bright young men and young ladies that take some of these AP classes knowing that they're going to attend universities that won't accept them no matter what the score is. And what they're doing is gaining the knowledge so that, and they're working very diligently to gain knowledge early prior to entering a university, you know, a Princeton, a Duke, or some of those other more elite universities that we see our students, especially at Central Magnet, go to. They're taking these classes and don't plan to take the assessment because they know it won't count no matter if they score a perfect score of a 5 on there. So that is a concern for us in the instruction department. With that said, we have a policy in play that, you know, we must follow.
And Mr. Zago, to that point too, they're taking it for the knowledge, and that's great, and so, you know, obviously need to encourage them, but a lot of them are also taking it not just for that, but for the fact that they get these extra points added to their GPA, right? So whether they're really going to be able to use that for college credit or not, it still rises their cumulative GPA, right?
Well, it's on their resume to enter some of the universities as well.
Right.
You're not taking a typical class.
Anything else?
Just want everybody to know, not our idea.
I definitely think we needed to clarify it for our parents out there that are concerned, so thank you.
Further comments or motions?
I'll make a motion then that we draft a resolution for our next board meeting that appeals to the State Board of Education for the effective date of this policy change to be moved to June 1st of 2018.
Need a second?
Second.
Was it you, Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Comments? All in favor of Mr. Holliday's motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Well done. Is that Mr. Reed that you want to? Yes, sir. Anything else on Director's update?
No, sir.
Ms. Moore, things are happening in Nashville.
Well, they are. Don't really have any bills that have been put out there yet, but we anticipate seeing some things coming out next week. I did have a conversation earlier this afternoon with one of our state representatives, Dr. Brian Terry. One of the reasons for that conversation was the concern that we just got done discussing. But he also shared with me that, you know, we heard, of course, in that last meeting where Commissioner McQueen was here, where I believe Senator Ketron mentioned that he's going to sponsor a bill from the Senate standpoint to put a moratorium on any more testing, right, or any changes until that it can be looked at by the legislator. And understand from Dr. Terry today that the House is also going to be putting forward the same bill, and our own representative, actually Tim Rudd, is going to be sponsoring that, and Dr. Terry will be co-sponsoring it. So very encouraged by that. That's really the only significant thing I've got to report.
My opinion on that, if it matters, is that that is a significant step, but it is a tiny step toward what needs to be done, but it's a good place to start. Any questions for Ms. Moore? I'm sure we're going to have some as the legislature gets their officers and whatnot in place and starts to work. Anything else on that? Mr. Holliday, anything on federal?
Between this meeting and our next meeting, it will be my privilege to represent the board in Washington, D.C. At the National School Boards Association Federal Advocacy Conference. This year, for the first time, because of the efforts put forward by previous representatives as well as myself, we've developed a relationship with an individual named Peter Oppenheim. And while he did serve as the lead counsel for the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, and worked closely with Chairman Lamar Alexander as he chaired that committee. He now is the Assistant Secretary for Legislative and Congressional Affairs at the Department of Education. This will be the first year that the Tennessee delegation has the opportunity to meet with someone inside of the Department of Education, and that relationship has been built because, in some ways, because of this board's commitment and dedication to consistently sending a member to Washington for that purpose. So, again, it's my privilege and honor, and I thank the board for that honor to represent you, and encourage board members between now and the 1st of February to reach out to me if there are thoughts and concerns that we want to share in D.C.
Any questions for Mr. Holliday? Number 16, we need to finish our business. I don't think we have much on this brochure. Mr. Evans is with us and poised. He's absolutely poised to do our bidding. Mr. Evans, thank you for the work on this. Much appreciated. I read over it last night. I assume everyone probably did. Are there changes to the position or the district portion of this? The application process, anything?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Everybody got one of these. This changes the qualifications. It doesn't change anything. It just rewords it a little bit. We were talking about the doctorate degree in that paragraph. It'll read, minimum qualifications include a professional educator's license, a master's degree in education with a preference for a doctorate degree with at least 3 years of successful experience in school administration. This kind of makes it flow a little better. It's exactly
You've got it. You have one of these.
I don't, but if the board approves that, I can get it. I've got that section highlighted.
What's the change on this exactly? I apologize.
Well,
first paragraph, isn't it? No, second paragraph. No, the third paragraph.
Third line.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move for acceptance of Mr. Estes' suggestion.
I need a second to that. Mr. Hodge, thank you. Any comment? I think that's fine. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, is there anything else on the district portion of this? I think application process, community. I believe he got everything, but there's a lot to it. It's wordy, and it covers a lot of subjects. And clearly, I could have missed something. If not, I need a motion to approve this. We need to get it to Mr. Bennett probably tomorrow morning.
Chairman, I would like to move to approve as presented.
Mr. Young, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Blair. Comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Is your song going to be out anytime soon, by the way? Your song, is that coming out for publication or anything? Yeah, I know that. There's a reason he's not doing it.
Mr. Evans, are you negotiating for royalties?
If anyone can get me royalties for that, I'll split it 50-50.
If I sing it, you're going to get charged.
All right, number 17 is general discussion. Just a couple of things real quick. I think the next time we meet, Ms. Joyce, is I believe February 1, which is policy. 5 o'clock right here. Okay. Now, what about the dates that you talked to me about? Have you given anything to the board on that? Are you wanting to do that? At this, well, Well, now these are the dates that she has tentatively selected for our superintendent search, our final interviews and dates for the, I assume, the tours, whatever we choose to do. And you want just to email those out? Or, okay, all right. Email them in the morning. That's in March. Okay, you can pick up a copy from her as you leave if you wish, if that's all right with everybody. Okay, any other general discussion? Board members?
Mr. Chairman, we discussed in our work session last evening about substitute teachers that we would be using for pre-K and kindergarten in order to comply with another Department of Education and State Board of Education mandate for evaluating instructors at the pre-kindergarten and kindergarten level. And we talked about that as once again an unfunded mandate coming from the state. I indicated last evening that it seemed unimaginable that the state would in effect increase the amount of assessments, read that as tests, that they would put in place as they work to evaluate these educators at the pre-kindergarten and kindergarten level. And they're doing this via videotape, which Mr. Blair astutely pointed out and raised concerns about the idea of videotaping our children. And it's a very sensitive subject, and Mr. Odom pointed out that the intention seems to be that this would be expanded to first grade and then to second grade so that we could evaluate all of those teachers in the coming years. None of this with any additional funding for the very sizable task that they are asking the district to perform. This is a complicated and complex circumstance, but it's an outrageous situation as well. And with an admission that I'm not exactly sure what kind of resolution I'm asking for, I'm going to make a motion that we again request of our board attorney to assist us between this board meeting and the next in drafting a resolution raising concerns about this pre-kindergarten and kindergarten assessment mandate that has come from the state and from the state. And I put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, raising concerns is that's pretty vague. I'm not really criticizing it. I'm just saying it doesn't sound like to me like they got to do much. But I mean, do you want to would you make a specific request or?
The specific request for sure is that they offer funding for this. But I'm not even sure that offering funding is as much of an issue as opposing the videotaping of children without parental authorization or any assurances of the security of those videotapes. There's a lot of things wrong with this plan.
Oh, I didn't say I disagreed with you.
I've left it vague because I'm not sure which part of it to oppose the most.
I say something we don't.
Please, sir.
It's not appropriate.
Well, I think his motion is well intended, but I think maybe we need to list those problems that you're referring to, and maybe make that motion at our next meeting. But you know, whatever. If that's yes, sir.
What if direction from this board is given to Mr. Reed with discussion between the director of schools and Mr. Holliday's opinion and other board members, that we allow Mr. Reed to draft something and then bring it back to us and then make a motion to approve it and then send it forward? Would that work?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, would you withdraw that motion then, or do you want to make that motion?
So we'll be comfortable with just the board, under the board's direction and no motion is required?
Well, I can't answer that one now.
That's fine. No motion. I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay.
I think we're sufficiently saying to Mr. Reed, come back with a recommendation for us.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
My concern is at this time, we don't know exactly what to oppose. We've never done it. The cost this year is not going to be great because of the number that we're talking about. You're not involving, at pre-K and K, you're not involving grades for students. They're impacted by this. They're developing this for teachers. I really do not like the program, but I don't know how to oppose it effectively because we haven't done it yet and we haven't gotten the feedback from the teachers. I can see one potential positive in that you get to see how somebody else teaches. Maybe you pick up ideas. But I have trouble with the video. Everything is not a video. Some of it can be documentation of work, pictures of the work without the kid there and that sort of thing. You know, I don't know whether we do it now or you wait 1 year and then you have a really good thing. Hey, this worked, but it really shouldn't be done for all of this other reasons.
But isn't the expense going to increase as grade?
It's a monster is what it is.
It is a monster. But here's what they're going to tell you. We didn't tell you to give them substitute. We told you had to furnish us 1 for every 10 teacher to do. So I don't, very difficult for, Mr. Reed is very good. Developing the argument is the tough spot at this point for something that hasn't been done yet. Are they going to call it speculation?
Well, to me, they're suggesting that we break the wage and hour.
Well, teachers aren't covered by wage and hour.
Well, but I mean, if they're required to do this on their own time outside the classroom, is that not a wage and hour issue?
Teachers are exempt by statute.
Completely?
Sir.
So, but if we don't incentivize them, it is still, I think, as we discussed last night, strictly on a volunteer basis. And Mr. Zago, if I understood correctly, we're struggling to come up with enough volunteer army.
So that's the teacher-employee argument, and I'm equally concerned about the student argument, because one of the things that I hear from constituents is about the level of anxiety on high-pressure testing. And we're now going to take, in some effect, in some way, in some manner, each of our kindergarten and pre-kindergarten teachers have got to pick out some student in order to justify their teaching practices. And they're going to look at that student and say, help me out to prove that I'm a good teacher. And so we're going to start anxiety at pre-kindergarten.
I think that's totally inappropriate, by the way.
Absolutely it is.
Totally, completely.
Completely.
Very unfair to everybody. And if it was my kid, I'd say no.
And if I could also weigh in on behalf of the kindergarten teachers, because this was something, the whole topic of these new kindergarten teacher evaluations came up at our meeting with Commissioner McQueen, and I was approached by, it was either 2 or 3 kindergarten teachers after that meeting, and they have serious concerns about this, not just from the perspectives that we're discussing here with the privacy issue for the kids and the what's it going to cost the school system and the teachers, but just how they're going about this and the intimidation factor that they're feeling from this, all this unknown that's being pushed on them. So I think it merits maybe even more conversation before we make a decision on how, as a board, we ought to move forward.
Well, I definitely think we ought to let Mr. Reed know what to put in this resolution in general and what our objections are. And he can bring it back to us next time. He's already eagerly agreed to do that. You know, at the county commission, we consistently complained over many years, and I'm sure they've done it before, after I left and before I was there, it wasn't me, to the state legislature to stop sending us this stuff because it costs money to do these kind of things, even though this is ridiculous, I think. But anyway, it costs dollars. And when we have to spend those dollars for that, we have to raise taxes. Okay? But we didn't really raise the taxes. They did. They made it necessary for us to do that. Just like the math teachers that they made us add. Did we need them? I assume we did. We added them. Okay, 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. Well, what was the cost on that? 300 and some odd thousand? Didn't send a penny with that. Nothing. And it had to fall into the county's budget. And it's not just the schools either. It's sheriff's department, it's health department, whatever the mandate that they want. And it's really their actions that made us have to raise the money somewhere. And then you know who got the blame? We did, and the county commission, or us here. We're too expensive. And it's really not us. Okay.
Why don't we ask them to send some of that extra money back that we saved per student ratio spending?
Well, I think you probably asked. That's 55 million. Is that what it was? 57.8. Well, we could. Well, yeah, we need to probably do that. Is there anything else under general discussion by board members? It's been a long meeting, but a productive one, and we've heard from a lot of nice people, and I hope we've solved some problems, or at least taken some steps to solve them. Yes, sir, quickly.
I'm going to throw one more thing.
Yeah, quickly, please.
Our Siegel Health CTE class teachers have stayed with us this entire meeting, and I just want to point out that, once again, personal experience, my son's roommate at college has his CNA and goes home every weekend and pulls 2 shifts at the nursing home to help pay his way through college because he's got a CNA that was given to him through an effective CTE program. He can go home and pull 2 shifts at the nursing home with his CNA certification and then continue his electrical engineering degree at Tennessee Tech. And so the effective use of a CTE program is outstanding.
The urge to tell you about my great-grandson, Skylar, is overwhelming, but I'm going to resist it. February 1 will be our policy meeting right here, 5 o'clock. Thank you so much, and thank our audience who stayed with us and those who came earlier. We're adjourned.